Brahma Chellaney on the meeting with Qin Gang, the Chinese foreign minister, because remember, sometime in June is when Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, is likely to be in India for the SCO summit meetings, and a lot of what will take place tomorrow in the SCO Foreign Affairs Ministers meeting is to set the agenda for the outcome document of the SCO summit meeting, where India is pushing for modernization of the SCO agenda. India is pushing for English to be included as a formal language. Right now, Mandarin and Russian are the two official languages of the SCO. So that's the kind of agenda India is hitting this meeting with. Before that, Brahma Chellaney, what's your estimate? Is China likely to pull back in Demchok, in Depsang, where the military standoff between the Indian Army and the PLA continues? Because, you know, would they be wanting to set a positive context for Xi Jinping coming to India to meet Prime Minister Modi, or are they likely to take the position that it doesn't matter, these are facts on the ground, we've got our men where we want them and there's no question of pulling back?
The fact is that Xi Jinping faces a catch-22 situation. The military standoff with India is the result of his territorial aggression against India. Yet, he cannot end this military standoff without losing face. Because when he committed this territorial aggression, he thought that he could actually force India to accept the new territorial status quo. But far from buckling, India has stood up to China in a way that no other power, not even the United States, has taken on China militarily in this century. So for 3 years now, China is locked in a military confrontation with India, with tens of thousands of rival forces in eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation in some areas. So this military standoff is an embarrassment for Xi Jinping, and yet he doesn't know how to end this military standoff with India without losing face. That probably explains the fact that even when his defense minister came to New Delhi recently, the military talks between China and India made no progress whatsoever. So the Chinese foreign minister coming to India for the SCO meeting is not going to be very different. There's unlikely to be any movement on the border confrontation.
Okay, remember General Li Shangfu was in India April 27th, 28th for the SCO Defense Ministers meeting. He met with our Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, and the last border meeting took place on the 23rd of April. That was the 18th such meeting between the Indian and the Chinese armies. Pangong So, Patrolling Point 17, Gogra Hot Springs, PP-15 and Galwan seemingly resolved. The confrontation in Depsang, in Daulat Beg Oldie and in the Demchok sector continue. Colonel Shukla, using your military mind, what of the two outcomes is more likely in your view? Will the PLA look to create circumstances which allow for disengagement and de-escalation in Depsang and Demchok before June, or will they just let facts be? Because Minister Jaishankar, to his credit, has been as candid and as brutal about the current state of play between India and China as is possible for any serving minister to be.
Rahul, I think that India has been making a significant and a serious effort over these preceding months to get China to withdraw from places like Depsang and Demchok, which have not yet been covered by the disengagement plan. But the Chinese do not seem to be having sort of any intention of obliging India on this count. It takes two hands to clap, really. And so far it seems that India is the only hand that's attempting to clap.
No, but it's very awkward for Xi Jinping. I'm just trying to imagine the thinking in Beijing, because you're coming to India. Like Bilawal Bhutto is virtually persona non grata. From what I understand of Prime Minister Modi, there's no way he'll be doing a pull aside or a bilateral with Xi Jinping given the state of the border between India and China at this moment. Does that then put a little extra pressure on China, given the kind of global role that Beijing is trying to assume, to at least pull back so that and he's not going to come just once, he's going to come in June for SCO, in September, in the second week he'll be here for the G20 meeting. You come and then you don't meet the host country for a person who thinks he's going to be leader of the world, that's not a happy spot to be in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's awkward in the extreme. But you remember that when Xi Jinping came to Ahmedabad, they had done exactly the same thing. They infiltrated and sort of got into Depsang. So the Chinese seem to be sort of quite comfortable with this kind of awkwardness. Whether they sort of see it in the long term as diminishing their status as a global superpower, it does not seem to be the case. The Chinese academics that we speak to say that it's something that a lesson that the Chinese want to serve on India at a point like this when sort of Xi Jinping is visiting. So I don't know. I mean, in normal circumstances, yes, it would want the sort of visiting country would want to de-escalate tensions, but with China, you just don't know.
Sushant Sareen, your reading of the state of play in Beijing at this moment, two completely contrarian theories. We don't know which one will ultimately be true. One, that Beijing will want to de-escalate and disengage before she comes to India, because how do you go in? The Prime Minister is not going to spend time with you. You come to India, don't meet Prime Minister Modi. That's something that will be noticed globally. That takes away from the global statesman-like avatar that she's now trying to adorn. And the other is that these are facts on the ground. You want to change them? Come in, take my army down if you can. Otherwise, I'm going nowhere.
Yeah, Rahul, I'm inclined to agree with what Ajay is saying. And there is a reason for that. The Chinese will probably continue to play hardball, just like we will. But I think we need to take our hardball to the next level. Frankly speaking, yes, the standoff is there. Yes, we've kind of stopped the Chinese where they are, and we're not backing down. All of that is all very well. And I agree that, we've done what many other countries have not been able to do with the Chinese. But I think we need to take it to the next level, and that is where we have been somewhat remiss, not just in the economic domain, but also in other, because where is the price that the Chinese are going to be paying for this kind of bloody-mindedness which they have shown, and the kind of aggressiveness which they've shown along the borders which were largely peaceful, in fact completely peaceful in many ways, and they've disturbed the status quo. And since they've disturbed the status quo, they need to walk back. Now, I don't think India needs to give any face saver to the Chinese. That would be a mistake. So I think we really need to take this to the next level. But I sense a kind of reluctance in the Indian establishment to go down that road. So they're trying to pussyfoot around this whole thing and trying to make it into kind of a brinkmanship, that they will not take it beyond a certain point, but they will not blink as far as the Chinese are concerned. So this standoff is likely to continue for the foreseeable future. I would be very surprised if the Chinese were to strike a deal which we could live with on the border question right now.